17 years of this work. 17 years of sitting down in a windowless concrete room under 50 meters of soil and rock, deciding what data the government got to and didn't get to destroy. And somehow I've been lucky. I haven't seen anything sinister or horrific or evil. Not until today. The brief, the document that I'm talking about is included here in my log. I didn't destroy it for what I hope is obvious reasons. I can't help but have that voice in the back of my head that tells me I should have. I don't know. This thing, I mean, it states clear as day that the aberrant are here. They're infiltrating us. And, I mean, I don't know how to react. I've checked the origin of the file a dozen times, and each time it's the same thing. Admiral of the 3rd Confederation Fleet, Niles Helston. He's the kind of guy who would get to read a brief like this. I keep refreshing it, hoping again and again and again that the origin point is going to change, or the file's going to just delete itself, and I can go about my normal life, but it doesn't. This is going to show my age, but let's, I don't know, take an enemy like the Transversal Union. They can be reasonable, negotiated with. They can agree to hold prisoners of war in humane conditions, not to bomb civilian population centers, you know, that sort of thing. Laws of war. When the aberrant first appeared, that went out the window. They're not like us. Not like us humans, not like the Transversal Union, not like the Velocians, not like the Mysticans. They're not like anyone. They don't wage war for ideology, or nationalism, or expansion, not even out of hate or genocide, not to colonize us or extract resources. It is a war to annihilate who we are. Not to destroy our physical forms, but to assimilate us into their collective form, their hive mind. Turn us into more of them. I mean, I was stunned as everyone when Leventia fell. I mean, could you imagine? The countless videos I had to go through, see if there was anything valuable to the government or the public at large, and God, I don't want to see more videos of these fucking beasts the size of horses and bulkier than bears with those insectish mandibles and their fucking slimy purple blood. I watched too many men die in those videos. That was certainly one of my worst days at work. I think that's probably when I, and let's be honest, most people realize that these are truly different from any other Xeno we've encountered. Other Xenos can be violent and angry and bitter. But these things, the aberrant, they infect us with parasites that literally rewrite our genetic code. They strip us of our very humanity, remove our agency, twist our thoughts, warp our very physical forms. The brief had something in it. It had a name at the end. Harris Jackson. I felt my better logic tell me not to, but I couldn't help myself. So I pulled up the general population database, and it gave me nothing. I mean, that's a database that has basically every human name ever in it, and it had nothing on Harris Jackson. I mean, there was one guy who lived in the 1980s, but I don't think that's who they're talking about. Some people are removed for certain reasons, the work they do, they're spies, or they're under government protection, or some other niche reason. Harris Jackson didn't seem to exist at all in the database. So I had to do something else. This is a crime. Don't get me wrong, I understand it's serious, but I had to figure it out. I used my commander's universal passkey to get onto the Confederation intranet without permission. I know, big crime. It's pretty normal practice, but it's not exactly normal to do without permission. Kinda seems disrespectful at best. I did an internal search of the network, and it did come up with a few results. The biggest file was his primary personnel file from when he was in the Navy. They get updated after you're out. It's so they can send you letters bothering you to re-enlist. Most people never do, but hey, the few people that do tend to get good positions. Harris Jackson, deceased, worked under Admiral Halston. As a matter of fact, he was one of the top guys under Halston. Effectively, the guy's assistant. So it's no surprise he was there with Halston when his flagship got attacked by the Aberrant and boarded. This was on the order of 8 years ago now. I know a lot about it. My then girlfriend and fiance at the time was on board, and she died. She was one of the lucky ones. 93% of the crew were killed, or alterated. Their genes literally warped, played with like putty. Jackson was one of the few survivors. He got off on a small cargo shuttle with Halston himself. He retired from the Navy after that, citing trauma. I'd have done the same thing if I were in that guy's shoes. I dug through the file and find out how the guy died. He was apparently on the Arcadia. Official business. That ship went down in an Aberrant attack. On board were, at the time, some of the most vocal, pro-war, anti-Aberrant politicians at a political convention. I don't know why he was there. Bad luck, maybe. By that point, he'd been long retired from the Navy. He was the CIO of Litharian, who was, ironically, the parent company who owned the Arcadia. Among the billion other things they own. My question is, why isn't Harris Jackson's name in the general population database? He didn't seem to have any interesting qualities about him that would merit removal. Nor did he seem to have any work that would make it a threat to him or the public to be known. Certainly not by the end of his career. So I dug a little deeper. I looked at the guy's name on the Liminal. Found just a little bit of information, mostly eulogies about his death. It was odd. He seemed to be almost entirely offline, which is kind of shocking for a guy who was helping run one of the largest corporate empires in the galaxy at the time. Reasonably speaking, it's because his family took it down after he died. But there's still little to no mention of the guy anywhere. Like, he has very little media presence. I just don't understand. I don't get it. There was a few other places that he was mentioned, though. Forums, namely conspiracy forums. They ranted on about his involvement with the Aberrant somehow, linked Litharian to a bunch of other stuff, but the main thing that I found most salient were the links they had to news reporting. They linked to a few that talked about him having a nosebleed at a public event. It would have been a small occurrence had his blood not been maroon. Supposedly. The thing is, the pictures they had aren't great quality. Actually, they're pretty terrible. And the news agencies aren't exactly known for their favorable opinion of Litharian, nor their journalistic integrity. They do show something, clearly. The burgundy slimy towel he was using in the video, but if they were real, they'd show something startling, and if they were fake, I wouldn't be surprised. I obviously need more than that to build anything off, but there's something weird going on here. I looked up every other file I could find on the guy. There wasn't too many, 2 dozen at most in total, most about a service record. 3 of them, though, were locked off limits. His autopsy, an incident report on the Arcadia, and the letter to his mother and wife about his death. That caught my attention. The original brief I have access to gave information on an incident report that mentioned his name. It might be the same one. Unfortunately for me, the incident report on the Arcadia was behind level 6 clearance, which is above my commander's pay grade. Level 6 isn't permitted for anyone in my department. Hell, I don't think anyone on the planet has level 6. Aside from maybe a few special cases that would need outside review and need supervision and would take months to do. Enough of what I've done so far is pretty sketchy. I don't want to make myself known. I need to keep this on the down low until I'm able to find more information to make myself a better case. Which means I likely need information in those encrypted files. I've got an idea. I'm pretty sure it'll work, but it's iffy, and a real crime, like one people have gone to prison for, so it would be real dangerous. Which is exactly why I need to do this. I'm in a position that basically no one else ever has had. If there's something here, it's big, and if there's nothing here, then no harm, no foul. I'm not looking for personal glory in this. I did it. I hacked in level 6 clearance. I'm not proud of it, but I couldn't let this one go. It was pretty shockingly easy. I used a partially decoded key that I had from another file from months back. It was just sitting in there. I was supposed to destroy it, but I'm not the best at my job, and I accidentally left it in my drawer. Came in handy, I guess. I made an automatic file decryptor with it. It was pretty easy. There wasn't much left in the decryption key that needed to be found. And I was in the network for just long enough to download the files I wanted. I think if anyone was watching, they'd probably know what's up, but that's incredibly unlikely, and if they were looking, it would be even more unlikely they had long enough to track me. All that is to say, I downloaded those files I talked about onto a hard drive marked for destruction. I manually pulled out its insides and swept it with another. It took all day to do cleanly, but I managed it. I threw the decoy onto the shredder, and am at home with the files I wanted. It's a hell of a lot more than I bargained for. Easy things first, the letter from the Naval Office to Harris Jackson's mother and wife. It was like short, like abnormally short. They didn't mention his name in the note at all, which I don't know if that's strange, but it didn't mention anything notable about his life. It didn't say anything personal about the man. And stranger yet, it was directly written by Admiral Halston. Like, I suppose he knew the guy, but it's odd. Normally, admirals don't write that type of shit. And if they do, it's not vague, and it's not bullshitting in the way it was. It made statements of facts, but none of actual sincerity. Listen, personally, if I got the letter, I'd see it for what it is, flowery bullshit, an attempt to make a man's death less tragic. Then again, every letter home from the Naval Office is like that. Where it gets strange is the letter mentions there was no body found, yet there's an autopsy. So let's look at that. It's mostly redacted, but the initial document isn't. It lines up with rumors elsewhere. He was a fucking aberrant. It begs a lot of questions to me. The main one being, when and how was he alterated? I mean, you could say it was on the Arcadia, but the problem with that is the initial report seems to contradict that. The scar where he was alterated was old, apparently well healed, and according to the medical report, not a fresh one. It leaves a disturbing possibility in my head. Checking his service record, there was one and only one time he was close enough to aberrant for that to happen. when Helston's flagship was attacked and boarded. And that was almost 8 years ago. Since then, there's been, well, a lot of places and a lot of contact with notable people. The entire executive team at Litharian, the naval high brass, politicians across the board, corporate leaders, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. If one aberrant can get to such a place, who's to say that there aren't hundreds, thousands, millions in other positions? All of the odd things about Harris Jackson I found during my research, the lack of general population data, the silence in the Liminal, the exposure to other potential aberrant or direct exposure to aberrant on the frontier, and strange, unusual connections to other people. Almost all those things apply to other people I found who were connected to Harris Jackson somehow. These connections often don't make sense either. Like, how did Harris Jackson go from being high-ranking naval command to high-ranking corporate position without much experience in that field? Well, Jessica Fowry, Litharian CEO, has all the same odd things as Harris Jackson. The lack of general population data, the silence on the limit, the exposure to other aberrant. It is forming a theory in my head, and I don't like it. I looked at the company. It was fairly normal, for the most part, up until a few years ago. They have these odd movements of assets, military production sites to expose outer planet, the loss of hundreds of trade ships and convoy escorts to pirate attacks. I mean, at that point, why are you still setting the ships on the same damn routes? Not to mention that the entire company is going to be acting against their shareholders' demands. There's been lawsuit after lawsuit about it. Shareholders trying to get them to do things, but they just don't do it. It's as if the company is working for the aberrant, against the interests of Terra. Not directly, but in these strange, backwards ways, like moving assets to a planet right before the aberrant show up and capture the whole thing. It doesn't make sense. There's something that I shouldn't have done, but I'm doing it. There's a business symposium on Marsaka in 2 months. The CEO of Litharian, Breakwater, and a few other big corpos is going to be there. I need to run a blood test on them. Check their genetics, check what is in their blood. If they're human, it'll tell me that. If they're aberrant, it'll tell me that too. I'm bringing my wife with me. She's practically the only person I can trust anymore. I took an oath when I joined the Navy. An oath to the people of humanity. To protect them, to serve them, to shine in the dark, to shield them from the nightmares of the void. I intend to fulfill my promise.